Welcome to this latest podcast from Harts. I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Stephen Clegg of Topspeed Couriers. Welcome, Stephen. Nice to meet you.
Hello, good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Topspeed Couriers and when did it start? How did you start it up?
Topspeed, when did we start? 1985.
Right.
How did I start it? I left my job working in a shop, and I think I had the idea around that same sort of time as I left. I think in a dim and distant memory, I'd had this idea about running a courier service. I can't quite remember where I got the idea from. I went down to the job centre because I knew I had to sign on, and they said, well, you can apply. When I told them I wanted to start my own business, they said, you can apply for the Enterprise Allowance Scheme.
Right, yes, I remember that.
And you can also, there's a waiting period. I think it was 8 weeks or something, had to be on the dole for. And they said, and while you're doing that, why don't you do this business course at Macclesfield College called STAB, Start a Business.
Right.
And so I did a business plan, went on the course, did a business plan, and went round the local businesses with a little card that I'd made at the time, had made up, printed out about Topspeed, what I thought our unique service offering was.
Yeah.
And weeks later, the phone started ringing, gradually.
And how many people do you employ now from those days?
Well, it wasn't like just a leap all of a sudden, obviously. We've got... I might be wrong with this, but about 160 staff at the moment, maybe a little bit more.
So it's grown from a little bit from when you started.
It's grown a little bit and a little bit more, and it's been organic all the way through, yeah.
And how did you manage to grow it so over the years? How's the growth been maintained? Did you buy out other businesses, or is it all organic growth?
There was one little business that we did. I think we had a couple of grand for at some point in the 90s, but it's all that was really organic anyway. But it is all organic growth. It was all done through marketing, whatever that term really means, and persistence, and keep knocking on doors, and a lot of good luck along the way, I'm sure, really.
Well, it's always the harder you work, the luckier you get, is the old adage, isn't it?
That is Arnold Palmer.
Yes.
I think, and it is. You think, you've been very lucky, but actually a lot of hard work, a lot of practice has gone into it, honing your skill. Yeah. And some of the skill, I'm sure, in the early days was very dodgy looking back. But so it just takes. But I remember doing the course at Macclesfield College, and it was a good little course. And I did another one years later at Manchester Business School, but I think they said, most businesses fail in the first 12 months.
Correct.
And then most businesses after that fail in the first 5 years, or was it something like that?
5 to 7 years, yeah.
Right, 7 years. And then you think, what about after 10 years? And then they showed us a video of somebody who was in business and I haven't had a holiday for 25 years. And that's a journey you've got to go on. But so it's all organic growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest challenges you faced when you were growing the company? Because we deal with a lot of small businesses and SMEs who are growing, and they often face the similar sorts of challenges that everybody else does, but they're afraid to talk about it.
You've got me. There are lots of challenges. Staying the course, I think.
Yeah.
When you're told by assistant bank managers that, is this really what you want to be? Is this really the right thing for you? Maybe if you're thinking about giving up. Don't you need to be focused on what you want to do, be committed and keep going. And the most barn-pot ideas can turn out to be the best ideas out there, really. So if you've got an idea and you think you've got it right, you will be wrong. There'll be something wrong with it, but don't necessarily listen to all the siren voices.
So what was a crazy idea? Have you done any crazy things?
Well, when I went back to Macclesfield for Macclesfield College about a year later to see the chap who ran the course, and I said there were other people on the course, and there were some funny businesses and some strange ideas, and they were good. They were all good. I said, what happened to such a guy? Oh yeah, he's still going. Yeah, he came in to see us a bit ago, and at one point I said, and that was a really strange business that he wanted to do. And eventually, I think it must have been a bit irritating. Yeah. And Dave Graham, I think his name was, he put his paperwork down and said, Steve, of all the madcap ideas we heard on that course, yours was the maddest of the lot. Really? And to me, it didn't seem mad. It just seemed like it didn't cost me any money to set it up apart from the investment in my car. The timing was right. But to everybody else, it seemed like a really mad the maddest idea.
Did you have any mentors or anybody you
No.
looked up to?
My dad had run his own business, but he was struggling at the time, and the family had been a family business. But I just knew that I wanted to work. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to work for myself, but I wanted to work for businesses. I wanted to work for the end users. I wanted to work for the AstraZenecas of the world.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a subcontractor to a subcontractor.
Sure.
And that's what I set out to do.
Okay. And I know that you deal with a lot of specialised cargo.
Yeah.
How did you get into all of that? What sort of cargo were we talking about?
By accident, I think we started to. I used to wonder why we got. People used to phone them, so I want a Topspeed Courier. So we're giving me the badge already. Oh, right, I'll organise a courier for you.
Mm.
Got to be a Topspeed Courier. And I worked out that our unique selling USP was that actually we managed to do the job. So we actually picked something up and delivered it. And I didn't realise that lots of other people weren't doing that. They were kind of doing it, but it wasn't not really happening. So the organisation and the fact we invested in ourselves, had our own employees and our own fleet, although that made the growth slower because the capital investment was made that slower. But we could do things that other people couldn't do, and we started venturing into dangerous goods, so infectious substances and things like that. And then we started doing work that required more security, so drivers with employees with higher levels of security vetting, and it was really the business model that aided that, because you've got greater control because you employ the staff and you own the vehicles. You can then start investing in technology, so you've got the control. Even just giving somebody a mobile phone, and in the early days. But the fact you had control of the vehicle, you weren't relying on other subcontractors, and you didn't have a long supply chain, meant that we could do things, and then we could invest in training, because every business. What's the most important thing in your business? People can say all sorts of things, but actually it's the people you employ.
Exactly.
That's the one key thing. And if you can learn to employ, and it's a difficult job for both sides, the employee and the employer, if you can work through that challenge, you're on your way, because you're employing people, you're learning along the way, you're complying with all the rules, the regulations, and you're investing in your own business. And you can do things, so you can train people up, you can do things that might not make any money on one element of the business, because that'll bring fruits further down the line. So that we started doing more and more dangerous goods work, packages that were packed with dangerous goods that were compliant, but you worked out that as long as you had control, you could do that properly, and people appreciated the fact that you got the job done.
Yeah. There must have been some hairy moments when you've been transporting some of these dangerous packages. Has any of your drivers got some stories, no doubt, that you could tell?
Probably. Chatham House rule apply. I don't know. Yes, I'm sure there has been some hairy moments. Right off the top of my head, no, I don't know. But we work in the nuclear industry, so we carry radioactive packages. So people's like, is that really? That's terrible. Is that dangerous? No, it's not dangerous, because there's rules to work towards. But I'm sure we've had some interesting. Yes, I can tell you actually we have had some interesting products on our vehicles. So we'll leave it there.
Say no more. Okay. The biggest thing, obviously, we wanted to talk about as well is you've got how many vehicles now?
160.
And how many of these now are electric?
59.
And you're looking to move more over to that state as well?
Our plan is by 2027, our carbon reduction plan, if you want to make everybody start going to sleep maybe, is in our carbon reduction plan, which the government want everybody to have, or suppliers to have, you've got to state when your net zero date, but actually one of those targets is when we're going to have an emissions-free fleet. And we said we'll have a diesel-free fleet by 2027.
Okay.
And that's what we're working. Van fleet that's diesel-free by 2027.
So that's only 3 years away.
And actually we started off with 2 electric vans. Was it 2 or 4? About 18 months ago, less than that actually. And now we're up to nearly 59. Well, 59, so nearly 60. So yeah, we're marching ahead with it.
And how do the drivers feel about it?
Uh,
Because they know you're obviously moving away from diesel petrol
Yeah.
over to electric, and how do you do it as a courier company? You're travelling a lot of miles.
Yeah.
There must be charging issues, range anxiety from the drivers. Are there any other issues that come out, and how do you get over those?
There's lots of anxieties, and there's range anxiety. There's how you charge up, but it's changing the mindset, and actually, they're getting more and more well received. There's some people just don't like it, but it's happening anyway. And when you see the benefits of running an electric vehicle longer term, and the driver benefits, the benefits to the driver are huge in terms of a more relaxed day at work behind the wheel, in the office. The stopping, I don't think any driver likes to stop for more than a few minutes to deliver, because every driver's job is to pick up something and go and deliver it. There's lots of things that can go on in between. In our business, we have lots of things that go on in between. But actually part of that is taking a break along the way.
Sure.
And it's difficult. Everybody ignores the break, and we want everybody to take a break. And the best way to take a break is
Stop to recharge.
you get down to 25% range left. Charge 25 minutes up to 85%. Go on your way again. Don't go any further, because that's going to be a waste of time. If you stop for fuel, if you're running a diesel van, you stop for fuel on the motorway, you stop for 10-15 minutes anyway by the time you've paid for it. A lot of the recharging point, and the noise is, there's no charge points. It's like when governments say, we're entering a recession, and everybody in industry, in the business says, that was 3 months ago actually. And then sometime later say, we're out of recession. And everybody else says, no, that was 3 months ago.
Right.
So we're hearing the noise you get about charging and range anxiety is like from last summer, really. It's still lingering. It's like somebody's smacked you on the head, you got a helmet on, and the dung, and you're still getting that reverberation. There's more and more charge points coming up, and their quality, they're fast chargers, they're on M&S sites with post office and things like that. Really classy places, not, grotty motorway service areas. And it is a challenge. It is, and you do make mistakes, and drivers need to be encouraged.
Could the government be doing more, local authorities be doing more to put more charging points in, or do you think we're doing all right as we're going at the moment?
Well, there's money to be made out of it, so I'm not even sure that we need to worry about what local authorities do. I'm sure the infrastructure, people say there's not enough power to this particular site to do it, but there's money to be made out of selling electricity for people running electric vehicles. So what's going to happen? There's more players going to come in because they see an opportunity, which is great. Nobody decries making a profit out of something, and the market will open up because more and more people. And Shell, there's several retailers out there who are raising the game, moving away from just petrol station, diesel filling stations. And
you're seeing that more and more.
More and more, absolutely. And you can see it around Macclesfield with some of the sites. So the here and now is what you go out and see. Local authorities seem to be strapped for cash and have other things to do. They probably could make it easy for planning. I don't even know about that. But actually what I do know is where there's a market, people move in to maximise the benefit out of it.
Do you measure the impact it has on your business, the move away from diesel petrol to electric? So
that's the carbon reduction plan.
Yeah.
And if you really want to start, putting your viewers to sleep, as you just mentioned, the greenhouse gas protocol, if you can say it.
Yeah.
So the greenhouse gas protocol is some agreement that's internationally agreed agreement, a way of doing things. But actually, I guess for accountants, it's what you do. It's basically, this is the way everybody needs to account for their emissions, and this is the way to do it. This is an internationally recognised way of doing it. You don't need to read the protocol, but actually, what that translates to is governments and big businesses, corporations, industries trying to work out what their emissions are, and there's a way of doing it.
And they've worked out a way, even when it's impossible to work out the emissions for something, they've worked out you can actually do it by spend, VAT number, working out what industry you're in. You can come up with a figure, at least to get something on the table. And you can drive out from that carbon reduction plan. And your carbon reduction plan has all your figures in different, just like a profit and loss account.
Sure.
And you can work out where your big money is.
Yeah.
So you could actually go around, like we did, thinking, what can we do in our new premises we've moved into in Winsford? Well, let's change all these fluorescent lights for LEDs.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The fluorescents are horrible. They needed replacing. Some of them were out anyway. LEDs, nice working environment.
Sure.
Everybody feels better, brighter. And
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what difference it made. We didn't have a carbon reduction plan at that time,
Yeah.
but I don't. What difference did it make? If you're running 100 or 100 plus vans, the biggest difference is actually not filling the tanks up with diesel, doing something else.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's evident in your carbon reduction plan. The next time you do the figures, press the button, just like on your accounting. Well, they call it a carbon accounting engine, but it's no different really than your accountancy software that your clients have.
Absolutely.
And you press a button at the end.
And out come the accounts.
And you go, oh, look at that. And what all they call them scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And you can work out, oh, look at that. Oh, look at this is a big spend here. This is what can we do to reduce this? It might not be replacing your LED light or replacing your fluorescent lights, which is a good thing to do anyway. But it might be, switching to nuclear or renewable energy or getting your electric vehicles working.
And what's your view on the fact that people say, well, electric vehicles aren't good for the environment because of all the stuff that we had to take out of the ground to be able to build them compared to the stuff that's coming out of diesel cars? What's your view on that?
Well, that's all contained in one of your scopes.
Fine.
So they'll say, so this is these are the emissions resulting from operating the vehicle. These are the emissions that have been produced in producing the vehicle, manufacturing the vehicle. So they're now measurable. And these are the emissions from operating that vehicle over a period of time and what you get when you dispose of the vehicle. Those are much lower than running your diesel or fossil fuel vehicle.
Okay.
Absolutely. But actually, just like the LED lights, making it more a nicer place to work in, make your office a nicer place to work in. It's not the electric, it's just moving away from diesel, which has had its day. Apart from, great, if you want a lot of power and you need a lot of torque and stuff like that, diesels are fantastic, big flywheels and stuff. But most diesel engines in cars are small, lightweight engines anyway with small flywheels, so they're not doing that job. There's now so much paraphernalia to keep the emissions down that it's not the engine that's the issue, it's all the stuff around it, the sensors, the recirculation, the stuff you've got to put in it to clean it out. And the maintenance costs downstream. And the older it gets, the more maintenance it needs until it becomes unreliable.
And do you find there's any extra maintenance for electric vehicles? They
No.
just run until they fall apart?
No, they don't fall apart. Well, the ones we buy, we think they're especially well made, but we do our own fleet maintenance. And our mechanics think they're fantastic. There is no... In any new vehicle, of course, you get a warranty, and the manufacturer puts the warranty up to whatever they think they can manage with that before the vehicle starts, degrading. So there's nothing to do to a new vehicle for quite some time, and then the dealers know that they can do a service very quickly because there's nothing to do. So with an electric vehicle, you get that same sort of benefit, but actually there is nothing to service on electric. Think of the components in an electric motor compared to a diesel engine, and add blue, cam belts, recirculation systems, injectors, starter motors, coolant. I think it's coolant in an electric vehicle, but our mechanics report that these vehicles are so simple to maintain, and to do a service takes, so much less time.
How do you see the future going? Do you see a position whereby the battery technology is going to be much improved, so you can get maybe on a normal electric vehicle 1,000 miles on a charge for say a car, and maybe 750, 800 miles for a van or a truck or something like that? Do you see that happening?
Well, it's not going to go back, is it?
No.
To be cheeky. And I can only see it going, it's only going to get better. Again, as people see they can make, there's a market in this. The technology is getting better. The people who say, I can't get the range out of my car that the manufacturer tells me I can, it's because it's being driven wrong,
Yeah.
not in the right mode, and so the driver needs educating in the right way to do it, educating, encouraging, and showing how the vehicle will work for them. The degradation already on a battery is much lower than people, I think, were saying. You know, we're only seeing a few percent degradation and we're doing a lot of mileage. And I'm sure, we'll have our first set of people. It's like the compact disc, isn't it? I'm not going to buy a compact disc. I'm going to keep my vinyl because something better will come along.
VHS and beta, that's good.
That will be years before you can download and stuff like that. And then vinyl comes back, and you know. But so I think if people say, "Well, I'm going to wait for the next generation," well, that next generation is starting to come in now, and there are vans that were only doing 100 miles on a charge that will be doing 300 plus miles on a charge. Okay, newer technology, newer van, more cost and everything, but that's happening, and it'll be gradual. But so our first lot of vans, as you know, I'm sure will become kind of obsolete a little bit for us, but they'll work through the system over the natural progression, and they'll have a value to them, a resale value, if we choose to do that. And then the next generation will come in, but we'll already have coached ourselves in how to operate them. We've been through the pain barrier, and it is a pain barrier. If you're around in the 90s, you bought a computer. The first
huge thing.
And somebody said, it happened to me. Somebody encouraged me, and he said, "Well, if it's anything like us, you'll sit looking at a blank screen for 2 weeks." We switched on, and it wasn't a blank screen because it pinged a little cursor with C or something on it, didn't it? And we looked at it for 2 weeks. Then we might have played Tetris on it or something like that.
No table tennis with the bats going up.
We didn't do any more in our office. Then look at this computer, switched it off, and it was. Some weeks later when actually we realised this is how we do it, and it became easier than just feeding invoices into a typewriter and typing the invoice out, which seemed easier at the time because it just carry on doing what you're doing. It's just easier than making this switch. So the same thing, our first lot of vans sat around for ages before we really got into it. And then we went through another stage where we realised they weren't doing what we thought they could do. So we had to then stop and say, no, we can't just send the drivers out without helping them and having a team of people in our office saying, right, you need to charge, dear. I'll find you a charge point. And it was new. We were told at the time, this is new. You are at the cutting edge of this. Nobody's doing what you're doing on it.
Is hydrogen going to come in? Do you think?
Don't know. Don't know anything about it.
Fine. Okay.
I guess I've heard something about hydrogen. I really don't know. As long as it's not diesel. I don't mind.
Fine. You're obviously a very busy guy. What do you do in your spare time?
What do I do? We've got a small holding down in Wiltshire,
right?
So I like being outside a lot.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of tractors,
which
are diesel.
Right.
A little Fergie from 1947, which is petrol. I've got. What else do I do? Used to go motor racing, so I've got in my workshop. I've got a Caterham, but.
So, what is your favourite vehicle?
My Land Rover.
Right.
I've got a 1991 Land Rover, with off-road Land Rover 110. I've got a Land Rover 110 at home, so which the dogs go in the back, golf walking and stuff like that, which is. So I suppose actually that's what I really like to do.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Steve. It's been fascinating listening to this.
Thank you very much for inviting me down.
Join us again for another podcast, and we look forward to seeing you soon.